Plastics are everywhere in our homes, our food, even our bodies. And now mounting evidence shows they could be quietly wrecking our health. Today, I'm catching up with the owner of Sands Market, a popular zero waste store, about how you can easily take your health into your own hands.
From the Stream Center, welcome to Bloom Health Club, sponsored by Monticello Family and Sedation Dentistry.
To Bloom Health Club. I'm your host, Gayle Guyardo, and our guest today is Eniko Olah, the owner of Sands Market, a popular zero waste store right here in the Tampa Bay area. But don't worry, this is going to be a global conversation because you can find these types of stores everywhere now. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to introduce you to our director, Terrence Middlebrooks, who's going to be joining the conversation today. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, glad to be back, Gayle.
So let's start with the fact that I don't think people really understand what an impact that plastics are having on our health, not just our environment. I think everybody gets that.
Yeah.
But more and more mounting evidence, like I said, shows that we're getting sick because of microplastics and plastic byproducts.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's happening. So we're using all these plastic items and they're leaching chemicals into our food, into our water, into the products we use to clean our homes. And so that is really wreaking havoc on our systems. Our hormones are out of whack. There's a lot of studies that show it can cause fertility issues. So there's more and more evidence showing that we should really avoid as much as we can a lot of this plastic, especially anything you're putting into your body or on your body.
And I think it's so cool that you decided not to just sit back and watch this happen. You were actually very forward thinking, and one of the first zero waste stores, and they're also called something else, right?
Yeah, so they're called zero waste stores. They're also called refilleries, but basically they're stores that help you live with less waste. So we go by both names, if you will. But yeah, we've been around. We're going into our 8th year, and we've been really championing helping people live with less waste, but also with healthier, cleaner ingredients for their home and their bodies.
So talk to me about some of the things that people can get at a zero waste store or refillery.
Well, it really depends on maybe how big the store is, but a lot of them are going to carry health and beauty products and cleaning products with really clean ingredients, and a lot of them are going to have a refill section. So you bring your containers in and you can fill up and avoid all that single-use plastic in the first place. Some of the bigger ones, like Sands Market, we also carry food products. So that way you can also get rid of some of that plastic that you're bringing home when you're going to the grocery store, which is what we hear a lot of people complain about. That's their number one complaint, is it's really hard to get the plastic out of my grocery trips. So that's what we're here for, to help you with that.
And, you know, the final straw, and you say pun intended,
Yes.
is when you were breastfeeding your third child,
Yes.
you discovered that there was actually plastic in your breast milk. How did you figure that out?
Yeah, so there was some research that had just come out while I was actively breastfeeding my third child that showed that the plastic in my body was then also going through and getting into the breast milk. And I just remember feeling so angry, but also so helpless, that it's so hard to breastfeed. As a new mom, if you've ever been there, you know how hard it is. And I was even taking the extra step of not doing bottles because the bottles were plastic. So I was literally just a human pacifier for, however many months. And I thought I was doing the best thing for my child, and then come to find out that even that has some contaminants in it through my breast milk because of the plastic I'm exposed to on a day-to-day basis. And it just made me so angry that I can't protect my own child. So I thought, okay, I have to do something about this.
Yeah, and we actually had a top Tampa Bay pediatrician here on Bloom Health Club, and he talked a lot about the link between children and plastic exposure, ADHD, autism. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the good news that I actually just found out from him is that if you can start eliminating this from your body, the body is miraculous. It starts to restore itself and pushes it out of your system. So I mean, because we're finding in people's organs, it's everywhere inside of us. And as you were saying at the top of the show, it's very disruptive to our health.
Yeah, that is true. And like you said, they found it everywhere. So when I was doing the research, 8 years ago, it was just starting to come out. But I feel like every year a new article comes out that it's in the placenta, it's in our brains. Then they started showing how much plastic you ingest on a yearly basis, like a credit card worth or more. So anything you can do to minimize that and start to move away from that is a step in the right direction. A lot of times it can be really overwhelming. So I think, start with one habit, one room, whatever you can. Don't try and tackle it all at once, but just start making steps in the right direction.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's kind of where I wanted to get started or ask you is how do we get started? But how do you feel? Do you feel like people are really jumping on board with this, with these type of stores? Definitely
the younger generations, I would say, are very aware and starting to really be more actively involved in eliminating that. We have our stores in downtown St. Pete, so there's a lot of young people down there. There's a lot of people moving down there, so we see a lot of engagement, awareness. But a lot of them come in saying, like, I don't know where to start, help me. So we always say it's a journey, and we're all on it. Just some of us are farther along than others. So when you come in the door, even if you have a plastic cup in your hand, because, the place next door, that's what they gave you their drink in, it does happen. Plastic happens. We're not here to judge. We're here to help. So I always tell people either pick a room or pick a habit and start there. Some basic things like plastic cutting boards. If you can get rid of your plastic cutting boards, you don't want to be chopping your food on a plastic cutting board, right? You want bamboo, you want something natural. And the other thing is, don't heat up your food in the microwave in plastic. If I die, put that on my tombstone. Don't heat plastic in the microwave. So sometimes it's just starting with like a simple habit like that, or one, thing you're going to get rid of in the home and swap it for something a little better.
And you know what I love about you is that you really vet your products, and you even have some items for the product snobs because they do exist.
Yeah, well, we sell a lot of beauty products, and there are those beauty mavens out there who really want their beautiful serums and their eye creams and all these great products that make us look and feel great as women especially. And so we do have some brands that we have vetted that do pass the test. So it's not all about making your own like concoctions and that's the only way. There are some good products out there, so we do have a couple of different beauty products that we carry in the store, as well as fine fragrance, because a lot of times as well, a lot of chemicals can sneak into your perfumes and things you're using, but we found some that are clean. We still want to look nice. We still want to smell nice. You don't want to look like a dirty hippie in the woods just because you care about the planet. So yes, we have everything you need from that regard too.
Do you feel like a lot of the big box stores are jumping on board with this? I know when you get to the checkout line, they ask you paper, plastic, or the actual little cloth bag that you could purchase. But do you feel like they're jumping on board with this? And if so, one of the biggest topics that's been around or in the news for years has been waste and plastic waste and everything.
Yeah.
How can they change that? How can it start with them?
The big box retailers, it's tricky. I think some of them are moving in the right direction, but I always feel like not fast enough. Like there's more that needs to be done. So yes, some of them have moved away from plastic bags. But again, when you look around, if you walk into a grocery store, the shelves are just full of plastic, right? So yes, I want to give them a high five for maybe getting rid of one item, but what about all the other stuff in there? I think they should be doing more. Some are better than others, but they're still far below, I think, where they all should be, honestly.
Now, I think it's really cool that, as part of the fabric of St. Petersburg, Florida, which is such an incredible city here in the Tampa Bay area, it's given you exposure to city leaders, chamber leaders, and then also a network of people that are maybe outside of the region. And you've really become educated as a small business owner.
Yeah, one of the advantages of doing this for, 8 years is I've really connected with whether it's local nonprofits or city officials. There's even a national director of all these zero waste stores all across the country called the Refillery Collective, where all the owners get together and we talk and we learn and we share insights. So it really is about, making that bigger impact and that bigger change, and we can't do that alone, so we do it together. And St. Petersburg has been really supportive of moving us towards, I think, a greener, cleaner future. So that's been great, too, to have more and more dialogue with city officials on what we can be doing. Besides the certain things that are in place, what else can we do?
Yeah, because you think about it, I lived in St. Petersburg about 15 years ago, and they didn't even have a recycling program. It was actually a young boy who's probably a grown man now that started the program and really got the ball rolling. You talked earlier about our youth. They're very, very concerned about our planet, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because one of the things that you learned, and it's going to shock a lot of people, is what we think is going to get recycled because we're putting it in our bin or we're rolling it out to our curb is not actually getting recycled.
What?
Well, so don't stop recycling, people. Keep recycling.
Yes.
But recycling is tricky when it comes to plastic. So cardboard recycling, great. Aluminum recycling, great. Glass also has its purpose and role. But with plastic, it's really hard because there's so many different kinds of plastic. It's really hard for the recycling center to properly sort those, to get the volumes they need, and then to resell it on the market. A lot of times virgin plastic from manufacturers is cheaper than recycled plastic because it's subsidized. So if you're a manufacturer and you're making some product that has plastic in it, you might just buy the new virgin stuff because it's cheaper. So recycling, when it comes to plastic, it's really complicated. It doesn't always work the way you think it does. So I always urge people, reduce as much as you can, right? So don't be proud that you're filling up your recycling bin to the brim every week. It's the opposite. You want to reduce as much as you can of the plastic you're using. And then the stuff that you really can't figure out how to get rid of, that can go in the recycling bin. So don't stop recycling, but just don't think that it's this magic green fairy and everything just, turns into a beautiful, clean planet. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. A lot of things when it comes to plastic also get downcycled, meaning it gets recycled into something that is no longer recyclable. So you're just giving it one extra round and then it's going to go to the landfill. So it is a little bit trickier. And then we talked about all the health reasons why we should be avoiding plastic. So whether it's about the planet or it's about your health, it's pretty clear that we need to stay away from plastic.
I feel bad because I'm just finished.
He has
down
a
this
plastic water bottle.
I can hear the leaching
I'm
all the way over
done.
here.
Well,
I'm
that's
throwing this out.
So, I mentioned how you shouldn't be plastic when it's exposed to heat is really bad. We talked about the microwaves, but also like the water bottles, right? So maybe you're like, it's room temperature or it's cold because I got it out of a fridge. But on its way to you, when it was
On the
on
back
a
of that truck.
or on a pallet in a lot
warehouse.
somewhere, that thing was
Yes.
heating up and leaching microplastics and chemicals, and now you're drinking them. So sorry to ruin your day.
I'm done.
He's like, no more. Reusable water bottles are the way to go. Water fountain,
Right.
whatever you can do that, please.
What are other interesting things that you've learned in your, educational journey as an entrepreneur and small business owner in this incredible field? I mean, what a great footprint you're leaving on our planet.
Thank you. Oh, that's such a big question. I don't know how to answer it. There's been so many things. We don't just talk about reducing plastic, but we also talk about other ways to reduce waste. So for example, composting. I love talking about composting. I think it's so cool that things can just go back to the earth. And so a fun part for me was learning all the things you can compost that you wouldn't think of, like human hair. Like I trim my own hair sometimes. You put it in the compost. Or if you have cotton buds, but they're made out of bamboo and not the plastic ones, you can compost those. You can compost all kinds of things, and it's kind of cool. I actually wanted to make a t-shirt for Halloween that says compost your enemies, because it's kind of funny. Like you can compost so many things, but don't murder people. But if you did,
Compost them.
compost them.
Just compost.
I take that back. That was
Don't do
clearly
that.
a joke.
Don't do that.
Disclaimer,
Don't do that.
disclaimer,
But yes,
disclaimer.
like pet waste. Technically, there are compost options for pet waste. Even feminine hygiene products, if they're 100% cotton and organic. There's all kinds of stuff. It's pretty crazy what you can compost. So that was kind of a fun learning for me on this whole journey too.
And tell me where people go for this network of businesses like yours around the globe, because I know that there are a lot of educational programs and you offer classes and everything. So, but if you're in a different part of the country or in a different part of the US, there's a place to go to find stores like yours.
Yeah. So if you just take your smartphone and open your map application, whatever phone you have, and just type in zero waste store near me or refillery near me, something will pop up. So that's a great way for you to find something. It might not be right in your town. Maybe you have to drive 15 or 20 minutes, but there should be one close to you. And then there's also directories online. The Refillery Collective has a directory. So if you just Google Refillery Collective, it should pop up a directory where you can put in your city and it'll show you what's close to you. So those are some great options. And then there's lots of online resources too. If you're like, where can I take electronics, or where can I drop compost in my city? Just Google is your friend. So you can always find different resources like that online too.
All right. We always like to take in a few viewer questions.
Sure.
So the first one comes from Kelly. She wants to know if it's true that it's dangerous to handle paper receipts.
So paper receipts, most of them have BPA on them, which is a chemical. And so when you touch those receipts, it can transfer to you. So ideally, if you're able to stay away from thermal receipts, I always refuse my receipts at checkout. That's always a good option. So yes, ideally, try not to handle receipts. They have BPA on them, which is a chemical that helps with, printing that thermal receipt.
Yeah, it's interesting because my thyroid doctor said, refuse you just push no receipt, or if they hand it to you, open the bag and have them pop it in there because you don't want to touch it. It's surprising how much it actually seeps into your bloodstream and how quickly it seeps into your bloodstream if you take that.
Well, and I always feel bad for like the people working the register because they might have to touch that all the time. Like I would think if I was them, it's like, let's start an uprising here saying like, we don't want to touch these receipts all day. So just throwing that out there in the universe if anyone wants to go after that.
I agree. I hope it gets out there and floats around for a long time.
Yeah.
All right. The next one comes from Melissa. She wants to know, are there tips for avoiding plastics if you don't live near a zero waste store?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things you can do at home too. So living, low waste or zero waste doesn't have to be fancy, kind of like the things you see on Instagram. So there's a ton of things you can do. Like, for example, you can obviously bring your water with you. So any kind of container, ideally not plastic, that you can bring your water with you, then you can refuse water bottles. But also like a mason jar is your best friend. If you're living low waste, always have a mason jar on you. You can get a coffee in that and tell them you don't want that coffee mug, which also is lined with plastic, if anyone didn't know.
I didn't think about that one.
Yeah, so it looks like paper, but there's plastic in there. That's what keeps the liquid contained, and you're putting hot coffee in there. So if you're able to take like even an old pickle jar, like keep that pickle jar, rinse it out real good, and that can be your new, takeaway container that if you have leftovers at a restaurant after you're done eating, or even like fast food, you can put it in there instead of getting like a styrofoam or plastic clamshell. So it doesn't have to be expensive. You can throw utensils from home in your backpack or your car. And then if you're out somewhere, refuse those plastic utensils. You don't want to be putting that plastic in your mouth, and just use your own utensils. So there's lots of like low budget, easy ways you can do things at home. You kind of have to plan a little more, be a little more prepared, but there's tons of stuff you can do if you just kind of give it a couple minutes before you head out the door.
This next question from Dave kind of circles back to what Terrence was talking about earlier when you're at the grocery store. Dave wants to know, is it better to request paper over plastic bags if you should forget your reusable bags at home?
Well, first of all, I like the way he asked that question because the answer is reusable bags always, but he's saying if you forget them. So I always go for the paper bags mainly because the plastic, it's going to be around forever. Like those plastic bags don't break down and there's no way to recycle them. But it is true that it takes more energy to make a paper bag than it does to make a plastic bag. But if you reuse that paper bag or you recycle it or you compost it, technically the whole kind of life cycle, I think that's much better than taking that plastic bag and then having to toss it. I know some people reuse their plastic bags for pet waste or trash or things, but ideally, I think the paper bag is definitely the way to go, even if it is a little bit more energy to make that paper bag. But yes, always take your reusable, and don't forget, you can always carry things. You can make your t-shirt a little bag. There's all kinds of, our women's purses are so big, just shove stuff in there.
Yeah.
Get creative with it,
That is really good. I know you're a young mom. Do you have any advice for like swaps for young moms as far as what they can do trying to keep plastic away from their babies?
Well, it would be the same as what we were saying earlier, is anything that the baby's ingesting. Try and get the plastic out of that. So if you're packing them snacks, or if you're making them food, baby food, anything, avoid the plastic. And I know glass is tricky because kids, right? But there is food grade silicone you can use, and that's going to be much better. So get the plastic out of their like food items for sure. That's definitely where I would start.
Now, I know you sell a lot of cool things, like you were showing, like instead of the Ziploc. Hold this bad boy up.
This is just a reusable snack bag, super basic. It's made out of food grade silicone. So this is kind of what I was talking about before with the moms, and it is leak proof. Like you can literally put your phone in this and submerge it in water and it'll be fine. But it's super versatile. So you can put a sandwich in here. You can put snacks. I actually use this for my makeup bag when I'm traveling because it's TSA friendly. They're very versatile. They're going to last you forever. So it is a little bit of an investment, but you want to make sure you're getting the real food grade silicone. So don't buy like the cheapest thing online you see. Invest a little, but these will last you years and years until your kid accidentally throws it out at lunch. But other than that, they're going to last you quite a while.
So you mentioned glass. Should we be worried about some glass products?
So far, I haven't seen a lot of data about glass leaching anything or doing anything bad to our health. It is a little tricky to recycle glass. So depending on where you live, every municipality is a little different. It is sometimes hard to recycle glass into, let's say, another glass bottle, but they do use it a lot for construction, so filling like the sides of highways and things. So it's not going to go to the landfill at least. So glass is overall safe. Recycling not as easy as some other products. Aluminum's really easy to recycle.
Well, and it goes back to the statement you made about the plastic sitting in the hot warehouses and on the being
glass you won't have that issue.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, show me what's the little round ball situation you got.
I just brought one, but this is a wool ball. So everyone is familiar with dryer sheets, right? You throw those in the dryer. Those are actually made of plastic too. So then you're going to be throwing those out. This is made out of wool, and usually we recommend 2 to 3 at a time, but you can add essential oils to this. It bounces around in your dryer, and it helps decrease the dry time too because it breaks up the wet clothes, and it's not plastic, and at the end of life, you can compost it.
Wow.
I love that. That is so cool. Peanut butter, you can get that at your store?
Yeah, well, we have a refill section. I get really excited about anything refillable. So I brought some peanut butter and some hand soap. So obviously 2 very different things, but just to illustrate food versus cleaning, beauty products. But we have a peanut butter grinder. This is delicious. You've never tasted peanut butter if you haven't tasted freshly ground peanut butter. So you can bring your jars and refill. So we have some pre-filled, but if you bring your own jars, you just fill it, and you can save on the plastic and save a little money too.
Could you get your jars and glass containers at your shop as well?
Yeah, we sell. So we try and make it easy. If you're ready to refill, you can either bring your own, you can buy a new one, or we even have some free ones. They're like donated, upcycled jars. People always ask if we need more. We don't. A lot of people bring us jars. Thank you guys. But we have free jars. We will make it. We'll make sure you get what you need when you need it when you're there.
And I know that we were talking about how you vet your products. You're really into single ingredient products, both that you can ingest and that you can use on your body, which is so important too when you're talking about our endocrine systems and our hormones and all the things.
Yeah, so everything we're vetting, we're looking for like parabens, phthalates, all those nasty things that you don't really want on your body, or you don't want to be inhaling them. So we vet all of the ingredients. Some of them are a little bit more complex, like laundry detergent. You might not know every single ingredient that's listed on there, but we've done the work for you. So when you come to our store, you don't have to read labels, right? We've already done all that for you.
All right. How do we find you on social media? Because I know you give a lot of tidbits out there.
So we're at sans.market. So it's SANS at sans.market. And we're very active we do something called Topic Tuesday, where we have different topics every week and educate everyone about how to live a healthier, less wasteful lifestyle. We do classes at the store. So we're located in downtown St. Pete. And then we also have a website, www.sans.market, where you can order things online or just learn more about us too.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Monticello Family and Sedation Dentistry, for believing in us to get this health news out there to you. And don't forget, you can always watch our streaming show, Bloom Health Club, on Apple TV and Fire TV, Roku, Samsung TV, WFLA.com, and YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. See you next week on Bloom Health Club.